Have you ever wondered what it's really like inside a nursing home? Let me tell you, at 77, I had no idea what I was in for. When I first walked through those doors after a minor fall, I'll admit, I felt a mix of fear, pride, and curiosity. Is this where I belong now? I wondered, will I lose myself here? But let me share something with you. Those 2 months taught me more about life, connection, and resilience than I ever expected. And today, I want to pass those lessons on to you. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Nursing homes, that's not for me. Not yet. And I get it. For years, I'd hear friends whisper about them like they were a last stop, a place where independence goes to fade. But here's the truth. My time there wasn't an ending. It was a beginning, a chance to see life and myself in a whole new light. So whether you're considering a move, supporting a loved one, or just curious, stick with me. Together, we'll explore what I learned about community, vulnerability, and finding joy, even in the most unexpected places. Let's start with the first lesson, the power of community. When I arrived, I kept to myself. I don't need new friends, I thought. I've had plenty. But one morning I sat alone in the dining hall, pushing scrambled eggs around my plate, when a woman named Edith wheeled herself over. Mind if I join you? She asked. Now, Edith had a sparkle in her eye and stories that could fill a library. By lunchtime, we were swapping tales about our grandkids, our favorite recipes, even the time she danced with Frank Sinatra in the 50s. That's when it hit me. Loneliness is a choice, even in a room full of people. Here's the thing. We all need connection, no matter our age. But in a nursing home, you're surrounded by people who get it. They've lived through wars, raised families, buried loved ones. There's a shorthand, a kindness, that's hard to find elsewhere. So if you're ever in a similar place, whether it's a retirement community, a senior center, or even your own neighborhood, lean in. Join the book club, share a puzzle, sit with someone new at lunch. Those small moments, they're the glue that holds us together. Now, the second lesson was tougher for me, embracing vulnerability. Let's be honest, asking for help stings. For years, I prided myself on being the strong one, but after my fall, I couldn't even button my shirt without assistance. One morning, a nurse named Javier noticed me struggling. "Let me help," he said gently. I wanted to snap. "I've got it." But then he added, "You know, my abuelo was just like you, stubborn as a mule, but he taught me something. Accepting help isn't weakness. It's how we let others love us." That conversation changed everything. I started letting the aides help me with my socks. I let Edith read to me when my eyes got tired, and you know what? It didn't make me less. It made me human. So if you're holding back from asking for support, whether it's from family, friends, or a caregiver, remember this. Needing help isn't failure. It's an invitation for someone else to shine. By now you might be thinking, but what if I'm not in a nursing home? How does this apply to me? Here's the secret. These lessons aren't about location. They're about mindset. Whether you're living independently with family or somewhere in between, community and vulnerability are choices we make every day. And they're choices that can transform how we experience this chapter of our lives. Think of it like this quilt my granddaughter made me. Each patch is different, some bright, some faded, some torn and mended. But together, they create something warm, something lasting. That's what we're doing here, piece by piece, lesson by lesson. Now, I've shared two big lessons today, but there's more to this journey. Next time, we'll talk about finding joy in the little things, redefining what independence really means, and how a simple shift in perspective can turn ordinary days into extraordinary ones. Until then, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to embrace vulnerability or build a new community later in life? Share your stories below because, my friends, we're all in this together. You know, one of the first things I packed when I left for the nursing home was this old journal. I've had it for decades, filled with grocery lists, grandkids' birthdays, even a few poems I scribbled in my 40s. But during those 2 months, it became something else entirely, a map of small, sparkling moments I might have otherwise missed, which brings me to my next lesson. Joy isn't a destination. It's a daily practice. Let me explain. Before my stay, I'd wake up thinking, what's left to look forward to? My knees ached, my friends were scattered, and let's face it, the morning news wasn't exactly a thrill. But in the nursing home, I met a man named Henry. Henry was 92, blind in one eye, and he'd start every single day by announcing, "Guess what, folks? We're still here." Then he'd tap his cane on the floor like a drumstick and hum, "You Are My Sunshine." At first I thought, this man's lost his marbles. But by day 3, I was humming along. Henry taught me something vital. Joy doesn't wait for perfect health or sunny skies. It's a muscle. You've got to flex it. So I started my own ritual. Every morning, I'd write one thing in that journal that made me smile the day before. The way the coffee smelled, the sound of rain on the roof, even something silly, like the time Edna from down the hall wore polka dot socks with her Sunday dress. Slowly, my eyes started opening to the tiny wonders I'd been overlooking for years. Here's my challenge to you. Try it for a week. Keep a joy journal by your bedside. It doesn't need fancy words, just one honest line each day. You'll be amazed how it shifts your focus, because here's the truth. Life after 60 isn't about chasing big thrills. It's about savoring the ordinary magic right in front of us. Now, let's talk about redefining independence. Oh, this one was hard for me. For most of my life, independence meant doing everything myself, fixing the sink, driving cross-country, you name it. But after my fall, I couldn't even walk to the bathroom alone. I felt diminished, like a bird with clipped wings. But then I met Rose. Rose was 85 and had been in a wheelchair for a decade. But let me tell you, she ran that place, organized movie nights, led gardening club, even taught me how to beat everyone at bingo. One day I asked her, "Don't you miss being able to just go wherever you want?" She laughed and said, "Honey, independence isn't about your legs. It's about your spirit. I can't dance anymore, but I can still choose the music." Host sets the photo down, gesturing emphatically. Host: That hit me like a ton of bricks. We get so hung up on what we can't do that we forget to celebrate what we can. Maybe you can't lift heavy boxes anymore, but you can bake the best peach cobbler this side of the Mississippi. Maybe you need help with groceries, but you can still call a lonely neighbor and make their day. That's independence. It's not about doing it all. It's about deciding what matters and owning it. And here's where these two lessons, joy and independence, twist together like a braid. When I stopped mourning the hikes I couldn't take, I started noticing the way the light danced on the nursing home's garden pond. When I let the staff help me with my physical therapy, I freed up energy to write letters to my great-grandkids, letting go of the old independence. That's how I found a deeper, richer kind of freedom. Which brings me to my final lesson for today. Growth doesn't retire. Sounds obvious, right? But somewhere along the way, I'd convinced myself that at 77, I was done changing. I am who I am, I'd say. But then I met residents learning Spanish from their caregivers, painting for the first time, even writing memoirs. One gentleman, Arthur, started learning piano at 80. "Why now?" I asked him. He grinned and said, "Why not now?" So I decided to try something new, too. Gardening, which, let me tell you, is not my gift. My first basil plant died in a week. But the act of tending to it, watching those tiny green shoots push through the soil, it reminded me that we're never finished. Not really. Our bodies may slow, but our curiosity, our capacity to learn, those can keep blooming until our very last breath. Maybe for you it's picking up a paintbrush, finally tackling that family tree project, or even just learning to text your grandkids. It's not about the result. It's about the aliveness it sparks in you. So ask yourself, what's one tiny way you can grow this week? Not because you have to, but because you can. When I left the nursing home, Henry handed me this book, marked his favorite passages, tucked in a pressed daisy. On the last page he'd written, "Don't forget, sunshine's a choice." And he was right. Joy, independence, growth, they're all choices. Not always easy ones, but choices just the same. Now, I've shared a lot today, but we're not done yet. There's one last lesson that ties all of this together, something that surprised me more than anything else. It's about how the very things we fear, slowing down, needing help, even facing our mortality, can become unexpected gifts. But that's a story for next time. There's a question I used to dread. What's the hardest part about growing older? I'd always fumble for an answer. The aches, the loneliness, the quiet fear of becoming a burden. But after my time in the nursing home, I'd hand you this photo instead. See these faces? That's me, Henry, Rose, and Arthur, squished onto a bench like kids at a picnic. We're laughing so hard our cheeks hurt. And that, right there, is the answer I wish I'd had all along. The hardest part isn't growing older. It's realizing how much life we still get to claim if we're brave enough to look for it. Which brings me to the final lesson, the one that stitched all the others together. The gifts hidden in what we fear most. Let me tell you about my friend Clara. Clara was 94, sharp as a tack, and she'd been in hospice care for months when I met her. One afternoon I asked her, "Doesn't it terrify you, knowing?" She took my hand and said, "Honey, dying's just a doorway, but living, that's the art, and I've got so much left to paint." Clara spent her last weeks teaching me to knit, badly I might add, and telling stories about her late husband. Every morning, she'd say, I choose, am I going to mourn what's gone or marvel at what's here? That's the secret, friends. Slowing down, it lets us see better. Needing help, it teaches us grace, even facing our mortality. Well, it makes every sunrise sweeter. Now, let's tie this all together. Community taught me to reach out. Vulnerability taught me to receive. Joy taught me to notice. Independence? It's not about doing it all, it's about choosing what lights you up. And growth? That's the drumbeat that keeps time with our hearts, no matter the years. But Clara's lesson? That's the thread that weaves them all into something unbreakable. A reminder that how we live now, this moment today, is what echoes. Clara's scarf may be full of dropped stitches, but I wear it every winter. It's my reminder. Perfection doesn't matter, presence does. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. Your age isn't a countdown. It's a collection. Every laugh line, every scar, every quiet morning with a cup of tea, they're all tiles in the mosaic of a life well lived. Remember this quilt? When my granddaughter made it, she said, "Grandma, the ripped pieces are my favorite. They show where you loved it hardest." Isn't that the truth? Our flaws, the needing help, the slowing down, the moments we have to catch our breath, they're not weaknesses. They're proof that we kept going, that we loved, that we're still here, stitching new patches into the story. So here's my challenge to you. This week, do one thing that makes you feel truly alive. Call an old friend and laugh till your sides hurt. Sit outside and name every color you see. Try a recipe that scares you a little. And when fear whispers, "You're too old for this," tell it, "Oh, honey, I'm just getting started." Before we say goodbye, I want to hear from you. What's one lesson life's taught you that surprised you? Share it in the comments. Let's create a tapestry of wisdom together. And if this resonated with you, pass it along. Hit like, subscribe, and let's keep these conversations going. Because the best part of aging, we've got a front row seat to the greatest show on earth, each other. Here's to you, my friends, to the joy we've yet to find, the courage we've still got to spare, and the truth that every single day is a fresh page in that journal. Keep writing your story.